Number 25, 2010. This is the first session from 2:30 to 4 o'clock. Vyakaranam. Let's do the Mangalasharam. Ramo Rajamanis Sada Vijayate Ramam Ramesham Bhaje Ramena Bhijata Nishachara Chamu Ramaya Tasmai Namaha Rama Nasti Parayanam Parataram Ramasya Dasosmyaham Rame Chittale Sada Bhautame Bhorama Muddhara Rama Rameti Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Rama Nama Varanane Shri Rama Nama Varanana Onnama Iti Atha Shri Maheshwar Sutrani Ayun Rulrak Eyong Ayauch Hayavarat Lan Nyamangananam Jabanj Garadash Jabagaradash Kapa Charchata Charchatav Kapai Shashasar Hal Iti Maheshwar Sutrani. First thing is, again, this is December 25, first session, 2:30 to 4. I'd like to make a correction from last time, which after the class I realized, and I also posted the example for us so that we can look at the correction. In the last time we were doing the word Kim Pradipadikam, I think we are looking at the sutram Kimah Kaha. And by mistake, I think I said Kimah Kaha is an apavada for Chadadi Namaha. That is not true. Kimah Kaha is not an apavada for Chadadi Namaha. I think for those of you who are looking at the daily examples, must have already noticed the question. So the reason for that is Chadadi Namaha has this Ishti, means the statement in the Mahabhashyam. Ishti is a statement which Patanjali uses in Mahabhashyam, Ishyate or Ishtihi. Dviparyantanam eva ishtihi. So Chadadinam only applies from Tyad up to the Dvi. So it only includes these 8 pronouns, Tyad, Tad, Yad, Etad, Idam, Adas, Ekadvi. So Chadadinam doesn't even apply to the Pradipadikam Kim. So it cannot be Kimashkaha only applies to the Pradipadikam Kim, Vibhakta Uparataha. So it cannot be an apavada of Chadadinamaha. To be an apavadaha, a rule has to apply in the subdomain of another rule, which is called Utsargaha. So that was a mistake I think I made last time in a hurry. I said Chadadi Nam is an apavada for, I said Kimashka is an apavada for Chadadi Namaha, which is not so. I mean, both of them apply Vibhakta Uparataha, that is true, Vibhakti follows. But Kimashkaha is an independent rule, not an apavada for Chadadi Namaha. The reason I was got carried away because the Kimashkaha comes right after Chadadi Namaha. It's the next rule after Chadadi Namaha is Kimashkaha. So I think Chadadi Namaha is 7 to 102 and 103 is Kimashkaha. But that's okay. But still Kimashkaha is not apavada for Chadadi Namaha. Chadadi Nam in that sutram, Chadadi only goes up to the Pradipadikam Dvi. It does not include the Pradipadikam Kim. On the other hand, Kimashkaha only applies to the Pradipadikam Kim. So that is an independent rule, not apavada for Chadadi Namaha. So anything if I say along in the class, always the usual disclaimer. Whatever I say in the class is not pramanam. It is really pending verification from Siddhanta Kaumudi or Kashika or Mahabhashyam. So you should always take what I say and check it out. Always question. And of course, if you know something is incorrect, please question the class or put a comment. We'll make the correction. Our objective as a group is to make this as useful as possible for future students. And we don't want to leave any mistakes behind as far as possible. Okay, let's continue today with, we are following the Siddhanta Kaumudi order of this Subanta Prakriya. Right now we're doing the Pullinga Subanta Prakriya in the masculine gender. And we're looking at Nakaranta Pradipadikani. Last time I think with the Pradipadikam Vritrahan, I think we finished, or Yogin after we did after that. So that was Nakarantam. So now we have some other special words which ending Nakaraha. So in the Maheshwar Sutrani, we are right now in this Nakaraha. This is how the Siddhanta Kaumudi takes, Pradipadikams ending in the Maheshwar Sutrani order. So Hakaranta, Yakaranta, and so on. So right now we are in the Nakara, just to know where we are. So this is the Siddhanta Kaumudi style. So first we did Ajanta Pullinga Prakriya, which is all the masculine Pradipadikam ending in a vowel. Then we did the feminine ending in a vowel, the neutral ending in a vowel. Now we are doing the masculine Pratipadikani ending in a consonant. Halanta Pullinga Prakriya, Subanta Prakriya. Okay, so now let us continue. And today we're going to look at about 4 or 5 Pratipadikani. The first one, looking at this called Maghavan. First of all, thanks to Karthik for preparing this document for us. Very useful. So make less mistakes. And is this also be on the web? Will be edited and uploaded. So if you cannot keep track of all the steps, don't worry. It should all be uploaded on the web, so you'll have all these steps. And again, of course, if you notice any typos, let us know. Okay, let's start with the Pratipadikam Maghavan. Maghavan means Indra. This is, of course, going to be one of the most used words, particularly in the Vedic literature. So, and Maghavan has a couple of special rules. Let us look at briefly those 2 rules, which are special for the Pratipadikam Maghavan. And first one is Maghava Bahulam. Maghava Bahulam, kind of a strange sutram. This word Bahulam is called Bahunarthan Lati iti Bahulam. So which carries a lot of connotations with it. The bottom line is that it's on the strength of Bahulam, you can allow operations which otherwise would not have been allowed in order to justify the Loka Prasiddha Prayogaha. So whatever form is well known in the world, accepted, we can bend some of the rules on the basis of Bahulam. So that is why Panini puts the word Bahulam. So that means you accept the form and then, adjust those forms, adjust the rules for that. Okay, Maghava Bahulam. So of course, notice the number. One thing, you do not want to lose track of the Ashtadhyayi order at any time. So please keep a track of where you are in the Ashtadhyayi. Slowly you start getting a feel for the Ashtadhyayi map. Very useful thing to have. Very rare in the world today is to have a good feel of the Ashtadhyayi. So the sutram is 64128, Maghava Bahulam. And the vritti of Tru comes from the prior sutram. So let's look at the vritti of Maghava Bahulam. The reason I say that is because most people don't look at only the vritti and the sutram, but don't look at the Ashtadhyayi. So that is one thing you don't want to be doing. So Maghavan Shabdasya. This Maghava actually is Prathama, is Shashtiyate Prathama, which should be Maghavan Shabdasya. In place of Maghavan, Va means optionally. The vritti should be read very, very carefully with a microscope, because they give you all the fine details, all the anuvrittis, etc. So most of the scholars, including my teacher, he used to memorize the vrittis. So if there's anything you want to memorize after Sutrani, is the vritti as given in Siddhanta Kaumudi or Kashi also. That's worth memorizing. If you want to memorize something, memorize Sutrani first, tat paschat vrittayaha. So Maghavan Shabdasya Vatru iti Antadesha Syat. So Maghavan becomes take the Tru as the Antadesha. Antadesha means as the ending Adesha. Now how do you know it's the ending Adesha? In this Tru, any technical term, the first order of business, remove the it letters. Of course, here is Upadesha Jana Nasika, it straightforward sutram, which you all know by now. So that, sutras 132 to 138, that is called the it sanya, and 139 gives tasya lopaha, should be familiar to you now. I hope all of you are following the examples being sent every day, get some practice, so these basic rules will become ingrained in you. So through, first remove the it, which is the Upadesha Jana Nasika it, Rikarasya it sanya, tasya lopaha. Takara avashishyate, any adesha which is given to you, immediately in your mind, you should think of this sutram 1152, alontyasya. Alontyasya. This should be now second nature for you. Adesha means immediately think of these set of 4 rules. Alontyasya, nitya, adesh parasya, anekashit sarvasya. 1152 to 1155. Out of these 4 rules, the 1152 is the default, which says alontyasya means any adesha, any substitution will only replace the ending letter of the term being replaced. And of course 53, 54, 55 are more some exceptions, etc. So right now 1152 is going to work for us. So the adesha is takaraha, so remove the it letters, and then the ending nakara will become a takaraha. So the udaharanam, the example is Magavan plus Su. So in this Magavan will have basically two sets of declensions. One will be the Triya Adesha Pakshe and Triya Adesha Abhava Pakshe. Triya Adesha is an optionally. So therefore on the basis of Bahulam, this optionality is coming in. Bahulam is not only optional, you're going to have one more use for Bahulam over here, but therefore it also conveys the optionality. So why iti nyayate? It is optional. So we'll look. So this one, Magavan in the Prathama Ekvachanam will have Dve Rupe, two forms. So right now this form is considered is when we do the Triya Adesha. So Magavan plus Su, of course, Upadeshana Nasika Achana Nasika It, and then we get this Triya Adesha alone Tasya Magavat plus Su. Now, so that was first rule specific to the Pratipadikam Magavan. One rule specific Pratipadikam. These Pratipadikam you should stick in your brain because you should know something in the back of your brain that even if you forget after some time, there is something special about Magavan. If you remember that much, you can just search the Ashtadhyayi, or you can find other books where you can also get it in your mind. So if you remember that the Magavan has special rules, this is the first one. Now the second rule actually is not specific for Magavan at all. So always notice the domain of each rule, which I've been telling for many times. You notice the domain of each rule. What is the domain? In which domain does this sutram apply? This first one only for the Pratipadikam Magavan. The second one is a very, very important rule which is going to come for many, many years to come. Is Ugidacham Sarvanama Sthaniya Dhatoho. Ugidacham Sarvanama Sthaniya Dhatoho. Now, why do we need this rule right now? Because the Adesha Tri that we brought in has this Rukara as an it. Rukara as an it. So that is an Ugit. Uk means what? So when that is an it in the Pratipadikam, the trigger this rule 7170. Very, very important rule. Similarly, word like Bhagavat becomes Bhagavan, which we see later. This rule is used in many, many places, not only for the Pratipadikam Magavan. This is a much bigger domain. So, Ugidacham Sarvanamasthani Dhatoho, or any new rule that you encounter, remember to repeat it 5, 10, 15, 20 times, so it kind of rings in your brain. So, Ugidacham Sarvanamasthani Dhatoho, Ugidacham Sarvanamasthani Dhatoho. What does this rule say? This rule says that Adhatoho, Ugitaha, Na lopinaha anchadeshcha num agamasyat sarvanamasthane pare. He's talking about num agamaha. When does that happen? Sarvanamasthane pare. Of course, what is sarvanamassthanam? I think by this time also you know these two rules which we have covered in classes before, which is Shi sarvanamassthanam, Sudanapumsakasya, Sudanapumsakasya. So, Sudanapumsakasya. So when you talk about Pratipadikam which is not neuter, means it is either Stilingam or Lingam. So he sut iti etasya Sarvanamasthana sanya bhavati. So sut means pratyahara, su aujas out. So when one of these five pratyas follow in the masculine or feminine, or when the she follows in the neuter form, in that case this rule says to num agamaha. But num agama when? Num agama only if that there is a ugit. If Pratipadikam has an ugit, which should not be just a dhatu with the ugit. So, adhatu. Right now we don't need this adha because we're not talking about just a dhatu with an ukas in it. We're not talking about that. So leave the adhatu for the time being, and also leave this one for the time being. Na lopino anchate anchateshcha. So this anchu dhatu with the nakar lopaha, which we're not doing right now. So also one more thing that you want to keep in mind, a rule might have various aspects to it. Take what we need right now. You don't have to worry about all the conditions in detail right now, because this is rule applicable in 2, 3 places. We only need it for this ugit part of it right now. This ugit acham, this acham we don't need right now. So this nalo pinhanchate, we're going to see later in some classes afterwards, but not for the time being. So basically, it cannot be just a dhatu with ugas in it, except the dhatu anchu. So if it's a dhatu, it has to be anchu only, nothing else. But right now we don't have just a dhatu field, so we leave that. What we do have right now is the adesha tri, which has the zu as an it. We're going to bring the num agama now for the sutram when the sarvanama sthana pratyaya follows. So when su out, just out. So again, very important rule. Please tag this one. Vidacham sarvanamasthane dhatoho. There's the num agamaha. Then the base says up as an it means as an it. Pratyaya following is sarvanamasthanamu. So then what we had is that we had magavat plus sha. Now we get the num agamaha. Of course, you know sutram, which is the midachontyatparaha. Midachontyatparaha. An agama which has this, or a term which has the merge and it, that will go to the after the last vowel to the term it's coming to. So right now the magavat is taking the agamaha. In the magavat, the vakara uttaravarti akara is the antya ach. The last ach in the term magavat is the akara which follows the vakara. So following that you need num agamaha. By midachoncha paraha maghava numta is what we have now. Maghava numta. This is also a technical term num. So remove these letters by harantyam upadeshadana nasikit. So maghavant you got. Maghavant. And in the meanwhile, of course, this sakara is going to go by halniyabhyo dirgha sutisya puktam hal. A sutra which you have seen many times before. Anytime you have an angam ending in halniyab. So halantam or abantam atva niyantam. Right now we halantam angam. The sakara of su is going to go away. Magavant. And now after that we get sanyogantasya lopaha, which you also seen before, is that if in the meanwhile we get suptingantam padam. Suptingantam padam. The su pratyaya came and went away, but pratyaya lope pratyaya lakshanam. These are fundamental concepts. Pratyaya lope, pratyaya lakshanam. So because pratyaya came and went, we can see that it leaves a lakshanam behind. Pratyaya lope, pratyaya lakshanam. So even though the su has the u went away by the upadesha ajana nasikait tasya lopaha, and the sakara went away by halniyabhyo dirgha sutisya praktam hal. So even though the entire su is gone, by pratyaya lope, pratyaya lakshanam, 1162, the pratyaya leaves the lakshanam behind, which means that we can still get the padasanya by suptingantam padam. We need that. Why do we need that padasanya by suptingantam padam? Suptingantam padam, of course, is in the 1414. These are all well familiar to by now. Suptingantam padam. Why do we need that? Because the next step, which is the sanyogantasya lopaha, sanyogantasya, such a padanta sanyogaha. This nakara takara sanyogaha, padanta sanyogaha. So padante vartamanaha. Tasmat karanat takarasya lopa bhavati. Yet takar lopaha. Now comes one complication. Is that takar lopa was done by 8223, which is tripadistham sutram, which is in tripadi. Now that takar lopa should not be seen by any of the prior rules as per purvatra siddham. But now we want to get the form Magavan. Magavan form we want to get. Now how can we get that form now? Because by Purvatra Siddham, we want to use rule 648. Savanamastane chasam buddhao. That rule is in 6.4. It is in Sapada Saptadhyayi. That rule will not see in general this the takar lopa done by 8223. But we want to get the form Magavan. So that is where we use the Bahulam again. In this Magava Bahulam, I remember I told you Bahulam is not only getting the optionality of the Tri Adeshaha, it also allows us to now see this the 648, even though it is a Sapada Saptadhyayistam Sutram, it can still see the Takar Lopaha done by 8223 on the basis of Bahulam. So that is one tricky thing about this Pradipradikam Magavan. That Bahulam is such that it allows 648, which is in Sapada Saptadhyay, which should not see the operation done by 8223, the Sanyogantasya Lopaha. It does allow it to see that in order to do the Upada Dirgha, get the form Magavan, which otherwise he would not have got. So we apply 648, Savanamastane Chasam Buddha. Because we've seen this one rule many times now. In the word like Rajan, we saw Raja, Rajano, Rajanaha. If we have a Nakarantamangam and the Pratyaya falling is Savanamasthanam, not a Sambuddhi, the Upada becomes Dirgha. To become Magavan is the final form. Now, of course, here also we can use the pratyaya lope pratyaya lakshanam because we need a pratyaya which is sarvanama sthanam to follow. Srunapumsakasya, we need that sup pratyaya to be there, su to be there, but in pratyaya lope pratyaya lakshanam again because 648 requires that sarvanama sthanam pratyaya to follow, and even though su has gone away, it left the lakshanam behind. We can use that. One last complication here is that, okay, we allowed 648 to see the lopa done by 8223. Then how about 827, which is nulopaspadibadikantasya? What about that one? Why should not that now see the takar lopa and do nakar lopa now for us? Again, on the basis of bahulam, it will not happen. One more time. We allowed 648 to see 8223 in order to do the upadadikha to get the lokaprasiddham rupam magavan. Okay, that's fine. But then 827 is a rule which comes and says, well, if you allowed 648 to see 8223, why cannot I, 827, see 8223? But in fact, I'm in the Tripathi section. So why should I not be allowed to see 8223? The same logic by Bahulam. You want to get the form Magavan. Only to get that form Magavan, 648 was allowed to see 8223. But 827 will spoil the form Magavan because the Nakar Lopa will be done. So on the basis of the same Bahulam, only 648 is allowed to see 8223, not 827. So Upadadi Irga Artam. So it is allowed to see in a Bahula Balat. So Bahulam. So this is because the Bahulam was mentioned. 648 will allow to see the Takar Lopaha, not 827, because 827 will do the Nakar Lopa at the end, which will not give us the form Magavan. This is a complication with the Padivatikam Magavan. One more time quickly. Let's go to our other document. Again, thanks to Karthik for getting this ready for us. Magavan plus 2. That time we're doing in the Trutva Pakshe because this entire this rule Magava Bahulam is of course being optional through Adeshaha. So when we get the through Adeshaha, again the point is made here that even the through looks to be anekal. Really it is not, because remove the it letter first. The paribhasha here, na anubandha kritam manekal tvam. Na anubandha kritam manekal tvam. You cannot say something is anekal based on the anubandhas only. It has to be anekal without the anubandhas. That is why we don't apply 1155 anekal sarvasya. We use the default rule only, which is alontyasya 1152. So 1155 does not apply here, even though it looks like thru has more than one letter. Really it doesn't, because it has to be removed first. Okay, we got Magavat plus Sa. Of course, the Rukara of the thru is a it letter by Upadesha Nasika it. The Numagamaha by 7170. Midoshan Paraha. One more time, that Numagama came on the basis of this thru having Ru as a nit. Midoshan Paraha. Magavan plus here in Numagama, of course, we do remove the Ukara by Upadesha Nasikrit and the Makara Bahalantyam, Magavant. So now we do the Halni Abyo Dirga Sutisya Pruktam Hal. Then Magavan by Sanyoganta Silopaha. And on the basis of Bahulam, we allow this 648 to see that Takar Lopaha. And so because 648 requires a Nakarantamangam. Remember, 648 is requires Nakarantamangam. So unless it can see the Takar Lopa by 8223, it cannot apply. So we need to allow that to get the form Magavan. Okay. Now let's do the Sambuddhi. What happens in the Vakata Sambuddhi? Similar steps. Here we do the 3 Adeshaha, and same thing, remove the it letters, and by alontyasya Magavat plus Sa. The Numagamaha, all these steps are the same as before, with the Shamsarvanama Sthaniya Dhatoha. Then Midushan Chataraha, Magavan plus Sa. In the Numagama, same thing, remove the letters. Magavan plus the Sakara goes away by 6168, Halni Abhyu, etc. And then we got the form Magavan. See Magavan. See here we don't, Magavan is the correct final form. In any case, 648 cannot apply in this case anyway because it is Savanamastani Cha Sambuddhau. So this is a straightforward case because 648 can only apply when the sambuddhi pratyaya doesn't follow. You cannot apply in sambuddhi, I should say. 648 cannot apply in sambuddhi. So the Magavan is the final form. No more complication with Bahulam over here. Okay, let's continue. The Magavan plus Au. We get again Magavat by doing the Magava Bahulam through Adeshaha. Pakshe is optional. Right now we're considering all the forms when the through Adesha is being done. Through Adesha Pakshaha. Magavan Tau again Numagama is 7170. Viduchwan Chat Paraha. And remove these letters as before. Magavan Tau. Now here comes a rule which I think we haven't looked at before. So let's look at this one, which is the Nashcha Prantasya Jali. Very, very important rule. Nothing to do with the word Magavan as such. It's just a Sandhi rule, which is Nashcha Prantasya Jali. So we have all know about Monuswara. I think Monuswara is well known to us, which is the Padanta Makara. Takes the Anuswara Adesha Hali Prataha. The next sutram after that is this one. Nashcha. Nashcha means nakarasya makarasya cha. Nashcha means nasya masya cha. Anuvritti the prior sutra Monuswara comes down. Apadantasya. But this is only for apadantasya. See, Monuswara was for padanta makaraha. This is apadantasya nasya masya cha. Jali anuswaraha. It has to be followed by jal letter. Not by hal, but by jal letter. This is a smaller set now. So because Monuswara was for padanta makara followed by an hal. This one is for apadanta nakara or makara followed by a jal letter. In this case, it gets the anuswara adesha. Adesha is the same, anuswara. Anuswara adesha is the same. But this one, 8324, applies for nakara or a makara. But it should be apadanta followed by a jal letter. So do we have that now? And then once that happens, so let's just do that one step. So right now we are looking at Magavan. We were Magavan Tau we had. So now we do have a Nakara, which is not Padanta, because Suptingantam Padam is of course here after Magavan Tau. This Nakara is not Padanta. We get an Anuswara Adesha and Nashcha Pradantasya Jali, because it is Apadanta Nakara. The Takara is falling, which is Jal letter. Nakar is Sthani Anuswara Adesha. And then we require one more rule, which is, these are again nothing to do with the Magavan Pratipadikam. These are only Sandhi rules, which we didn't do. How come we didn't require this? We didn't do this before when we did the Sandhi Niyamaha? Because this is not Padanta Sandhi. That's why. The Sandhi rule which we did before, the Sandhi rules were all Padanta Sandhi rules. We have not done all the Sandhi rules which are, Apadanta Sandhi rules. We did one or two, but not all of them. So that is why this was not covered before. So next sutram says Anuswarasya yai parasavarnaha. Anuswarasya yai parataha parasavarna adesha bhavati. If the Anuswaraha is followed by yai, so ha ya varat up to the kapai. So any yai letter is followed. Then, which is of course most of the consonants except the the shasha, sa and ha, includes all the others. That the Anuswara goes and matches the Paravarna. So it becomes the Savarna with the following letter. Anuswarasya yai parasavarna. Anuswarasya yai parataha parasavarna adesha bhavati. So when we have this form right now, Magavanta with Anuswara, the Anuswara is going to become the Tavarga. Savarna with the Tavarga. But Tata doesn't know. Nakara is the only one which has the the nasal component become Magavantau. This looks like a redundant step, but please make it a habit to do these two steps, which is Nashchavantasya Jali, Anuswarasya Parasavarnaha. Now how about in the Bhagavad Gita, all these places, so many places Anuswara we have, how come it doesn't become Parasavarna there also? In Gita, of course, almost every shloka you see Anuswara somewhere, you take it, almost every shloka, you look at this one, Shaknoti eva yastodum, Sodum, Anuswara we have over here, followed by a yai letter, Pakara, then Atrakasmana Bhavati Parasavarnaha Deshaha. Because that 8458 has a next sutram which says Vapadantasya. We don't need it right now, but I just want to mention that to you. because we are doing Anuswara Saji Parasavarna right now, which is fine. But the question you might ask is, in Gita, so many places there are so many Anuswara that are seen without Parasavarna being done. So how is that happening? Because of the next sutram, Va Padantasya. It's a Padanta Anuswaraha. In that case, it becomes Parasavarna optionally. So in the writing convention is that not to put the Parasavarna. It's a writing convention. Of course, while chanting, it's better to make the Parasavarna, but while in printing, most of the time you will not see the Parasavarna if the Anuswara is Padanta. Right now for us, the Anuswara is not Padanta, because the one that we are looking at right now is the example Magavantau. So this one is not Padanta Anuswara, so Atra Vikalpa Anasti. There's no choice over here. We have to make the Parasavarna Magavantau. So these two steps look redundant in this context. Magavantau, back to Magavantau. But don't take this lightly, because we're going to see a situation later where it will make a difference. Just very quickly mention to you is look at this, the numbers of these two sutras. Is the Nascha Padantasya Jali is 8324, while the Anuswara Saji Parasavarna is 8458. So now, any rule which comes in between these two rules, any rule which comes in between these two, 8324 or 8458, will not see the Nakara anymore. You see Anuswara only. Because remember, 8324 puts the Anuswara in place, 8458 makes the Parasavarna. So in the meanwhile, between 8324 and 8458, if some rule, all the rules in between there, they don't see the Nakara. They will not see the Nakara. They see the Anuswara only. Particularly, the rule which changed the Na to Na, which come in the beginning of 8.4, they will not see the Anuswara. They will not see the Nakara in this case. They see Anuswara only. Anyway, this operation right now looks to be unnecessary, but we should do this operation, because even though it doesn't make a difference here, it will make a difference in other places. It will stop, some other operation will be stopped, or something will happen. So it's a good habit to make the Anuswara and Parasavarna, even though there is no net difference. Okay, let's continue now. Let's look at the Pratama Bahuvachanam, Magavan plus Jas. I can remove these letters, being through Adesha, Magava Bahulam. Numma Agama has before, Magavan plus us, so become Magavantaha. And then you do of course, the Rutta Visarga, Satsishushoruhu, Karavasanar Visarjaniyaha. Same thing again, Anuswara Parasavarna. Naschaparantasya Jali, Anuswara Saji Parasavarna. Very, very important rules, fundamental rules. Again, nothing to do with the Pradipati of Magavan as such. It just happens to be the first time we're encountering this situation. That's why we're talking about it now. But this rule of Naschapadantasya Jali as well as Anuswara Saji Parasavarna are very, very, very fundamental rules, Sandhi rules. So please make them, part of your set of rules that you know. Okay, so Magavan plus similar steps again. Do the Tri Adeshaha, remove these letters. Num Agama as before by Ugutasham Srivanamastani Dhatoho, Magavantam Anuswara Parasavarnaha. So Magavantam we got, same thing with the out, nothing special, same as in these au, as I mentioned to you, this au and out, they have the same forms, because this takara and it is not for differentiating them. The takara and it in out is not for differentiating out with out. It's only to form the pratyahara sut, which you already saw. So the takara of out is meant to facilitate the formation of the pratyahara sut, not to say that out is different from au in the fundamental way. Of course, in some cases, this dvitiya might have some special forms, but otherwise the au and out will give the same form. So pratama dvivachane for dvitiya dvivachane api saman rupam bhavati. So Magavan plus Magavan plus out, same thing through Adeshaha, Magava Bahulam, followed by the Numa Agamaha, Vidisham Suvanamastani Dhatoho, then Anuswaraha, Parasavarnaha, Magavantau. Okay, the Magavan plus Shas, nothing special, do through Adeshaha and just join, make Drutta Visarga, Magavataha, Magavan plus Ta, so Magavata, nothing special, so through Adesha, Magava Bahulam, straightforward. Now, when Magavan plus Bhyam, like Rajan Shabdaha, no, actually, but here, not like Rajan Shabda, different, because we're doing through Adesha here. It would be like just like Rajan, but because Tru Adesha become Magavat by Magava Bahulam, and then gets the Padasanya by Swadishva Sarvanamasthane, Swadishva Sarvanamasthane. Swadishva Sarvanamasthane, you get the Padasanya, the Angam gets Padasanya. So then you get Jalam Jashwante. Jalam Jashwante, 8237, Jalam Jashwante. It says that if you have any rule which you've seen many times now, is if you have a Jal letter, this Padanta, it becomes a Jash letter, number 3 column. Takara becomes Dakaraha. Important sutram here is that the Swadishva Sarvanamasthane, Swadishva Sarvanamasthane Padasanya. Come Magavadvyam, same thing, Magavadbhe, nothing special, the same thing, Padasanya, and by Jalam Jashwante, Takara becomes Dakaraha, Magavadbhe. Now Magavan plus Me, again same thing, Magava Bahulam, Tru Adesha, Magavate, no new rules here, Magavan plus Bhyaha, again Tru Adesha, Padasanya, by Swadishva Sarvanamasthane, and then Jalam Jashwante, Magavadbhyaha, Magavan plus Nyasi, nothing special, Tru Adesha, Magavataha, same thing, Magavan plus Nyas, only thing, the it letters are different because here you get the 132 in Nyasi, Upadesha Junanasika it and Lashakutadite. In Nyas, you Lashakutadite, and then Navivakta to Smaha. Vivakta to Smaha. So Sakar is not an it because of in the Vivakti Pratyaha, the ending Takara, Tavarga, Sakara Makar don't get Itsanya, so this becomes As remains behind. Magavataha with the Tru Adeshaha, with the O, same thing, Magavatoho, Magava Bahulam, Am Pratyaya also, Magavatam, again Tru Adesha, nothing special. They're also Nivavakta to Smaha, and Magavan plus Me become Magavati. So far we've seen this one rule we have seen specifically for Magavan, which is Magava Bahulam, which is the Tru Adesha optionally. So far we see only the Tru Adesha Paksha, which is when Tru Adesha takes place, what happens. Those forms we have seen so far. Now, the next one, when Tru Adesha is not there, then what happens? That is we're going to see next. And here what happens is that we need one more special rule. This will go like Rajan. Magam will go like Rajan, except when the Bhasanya comes in, we have one special rule. So when Magavan does not take Tru Adesha Magava Bahulam, because Bahulam it is Vikalpena, then in that case, it's going to go like Rajan Shabdaha, except when the Bhasanya comes, there will be a special rule. So let's so Magavan plus Shu, just like Rajan plus Shu becomes Raja. Here also Magavan plus Su, we do remove the it letter, then remove the Sakara by Halniyabhyo Dirga Suti Se Praktam Hal, make it Magavan by Savanamastane Chasam Buddha, and Magava by Nulapaf Paribadikantasya. Just like Rajan become Raja, Magavan became Magava, no new rules. Same thing, Magavan plus Sambuddhi Su, here also we remove the it letters, and then remove the Sakara by Halniyabhyo Dirga Suti Se Praktam Hal. In this case, of course, we don't remove the Nakara because of Nani Sambuddhyoho. Same as like Rajan becomes Sambuddhi, become Rajan. Same thing, Magavan, Sambuddhi becomes Magavan. So, because this 827 is started by 828, Nulapaf Paribadikantasya is started by 828 in this case, because if the Sambuddhi Pratyaya follows, then 828 says don't do 827. So it becomes He Magavan, just like in Rajan. Magavan plus Au, only sutram is Sarvanamastane Chasam Buddha Upadadhikha Magavanau, same as Rajanau. Okay, Magavan plus Jas, same Rajanaha, Magavanaha, nothing special. Magavan plus Magavanam like Rajanam, no new. So far, no new rules. So far, just like Rajan. Magavan plus out, Magavanau, only the Upadadhikha by Sarvanamastane Chasam Buddha. Now comes a special rule, which is Magavan plus Shas. Magavan plus Shas, because now starts the Bhasanya. Because why only starts? Because Yachibham, Anuvritti of the Pari Sutram, Yachibham is 1418. Anuvritti of the Pari Sutram is from the Swadishva Sarvanamasthane. Swadishva Sarvanamasthane. We get the Anuvritti of this Swadishu Sarvanamasthane. Because of Sunapumsakasya, because Su out just out, they had a Sarvanamasthana Sanya. So shas is the first pratyaya that we have now. It does not have sarvanamastanya because surnapumsakasya. So surnapumsakasya. So su out, just out. The panchanam pratyayanam sarvanamasthanasanya bhavati. So shas is the first pratyaya which comes, does not have the sarvanamasthanasanya. So then that triggers this yachibham. Yachibham and also the one for 17, 18 both start coming into play only with this pratyaya shastam in the masculine or feminine. That's what will happen because shast pratyaya will be the first one which doesn't have sarvanamastana sanya. So swadishva sarvanamastane padasanya yachibham bhavasanya. So now let's go back to our example and we have magavan plus shas. Magavan plus shas and becomes magavan plus as anubandha lopaha, then bhavasanya by yachibham. And then comes a special rule, which is 64133. That sutram, and this is the last special rule for Magavan, which is an interesting sutram. Shva yuva maghonama taddhiteyo. Shva yuva maghonama taddhiteyo. Special rule. What does it say? Annantanam. So when these Shvan, Yuvan, and Magavan, when they end in an. Now what's the big deal about that? Because already Shvan, Yuvan, Magavan are already ending in an. Then why say ending in an again? Because when Magavan takes the Tru Adesha, it becomes Magavat. In that case, don't use this sutram. Because by saying the Annanta Magavan, what it means is that Tru Adesha Pakshe, Idam Sutram na pravartate. It doesn't come in the Tru Adesha Pakshe. So when Magavan ends in an, or Shvan or Yuvan ends in an, those two are fine. But Magavan may not end in an all the time. We just saw Magava Bhulam, which makes the Tru Adesha. Takar Adeshaha. So Anantanam. So this sutram only applies when Magavan remains Magavan. If it becomes Magavat, this sutram doesn't come into play. So Anantanam Bhasanyakanam. Again Yachibham. Look at the number 64133. Yachibham is, I mean the Bhasanya Bhasyadika starts from 64129. So Esham means Shva, Yuvan and Maghonam. Atadite Pare. We don't have Taditara because Taditapatya starts from 4178. Starts Taditaha. Right now we're using 412 only. Suojas is 412. So this one doesn't apply to us right now. Atadite Pare. Samprasaranam Bhavati. Samprasaranam Syat. So if this Ananta Magavan is there, which has the Bhasanya, then Samprasaranam. Now what is Samprasaranam? Very, very important concept. Very important concept, Samprasaranam. In simple terms, Samprasaranam is the reverse of Yan Sandhi. The reverse of Yan is Samprasaranam. The reverse of Yan is Samprasaranam. In Yan Sandhi, what do? We take a Ik, Ikonachi, and Ik replaced by the Yan letters. So E by Ikara by Yakaraha, Ukara by Vakaraha, and so on. But here it's the reverse. Ik Samprasaranam. So Yanasthane, Prayujyamano ya Ik, sa Samprasarana Sanyasyat. So in the place of Yan, if you put an Ik letter, that gets a Sanya Samprasaranam. Very important concept. It's going to be with us forever now. Samprasaranam. So Ik Samprasaranam. In fact, some grammarians also say that even the process of making the substitution also called Samprasaranam. So not only that Ik letter, which is coming as a substitute, but even this prakriya, this process is called Samprasaranam. So now, this by this sutram which we saw, Shva, Yuva, Maghona, Matadite, again, interesting sutram, because you have a dog and a young man and Indra in the same sutram. So people make fun of this sutram because it's a very strange sutram. You look at the meaning of these words, it's a very strange sutram. Because you have Shvan is a dog, Yuvan is a young man, and Magavan is Indra. In one sutram, you have these three very strange terms coming together. But this is, anyways, Vyakaranam, so this is not really a dosha, so it's just a little bit funny. So this is Samprasaram. Is in place of Yan, if an Ik letter comes, that Ik is the Samprasaram, and even the process can be called Samprasaram. In the Gita example, very quickly, in chapter 5, 5.18, where sutram is Vidya Vinay Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Cheva Shapake Cha Pandita Samadrashanaha. Shuni. Shuni is Pajba becomes Shwan. Now how does Shwan become Shuni? Saptami Ekavachanam. This same sutram. Shva Yuva Maghonama Tadjite. Shva Yuga Maghonama Tadjite. Then you have Shwan plus Mi Pattaya. Anubandha Lope E. Vadashakva Tadjite. Now because this Shwan got Bhasanya by Yachibham, Now, and this sutram, this shva, yuva, magho, nama, tadyate, this takes samprasaranam. Samprasaranam means a yan goes to an ik. Now, in the shvan prajabadikam, there's only one yan, which is vakara. Yan means what? Ha, yava, rat, lan, yava, la. In shvan, only vakara is the yan letter. That's going to go to the ukaraha by this sutram, which is shva, yuva, magho, nama, tadyate, iggana samprasaranam. Vakara sthane u ade. Only the vakara becomes u. So one becomes u an. Only vakara becomes u. The akara is still there. So become sh u an. Because we had shvan. So sh u an. Now if it remains as it is, you have to do yan sandhi again, go back to vakara. Samprasaranam yartham syat. It will be useless. If you leave this as it is right now with no further rules, then you can again apply iku and achi over here, and the ukara will go away, become vakara again. So, of course, you don't want that. Then that'll make the whole samprasaranam useless. So, next sutram says samprasarana cha. Notice the number again. No, number is 61108. This is pura parayoho eka desha. Eka pura parayoho. That so which we have been seeing all the time, which is the samhitayam and eka pura parayoho. That eka pura parayoho, a single substitute in place of two items, that goes from 6184 to 6111. So we see many rules in that, like akasame dirgha, prathame purva savarnaha, the ato gune, and so on, which ami purvaha, enga pradanta dati, nyasina soscha, rita ut. So we have seen many sutram in this adhikaraha, but one more for today is samprasarana cha. Right below ami purvaha. Ami purva is 61107, samprasarana cha. What does that sutram say? Is that when samprasaranam is followed by a vowel, there is a single substitute of the pura rupam ekadeshaha, which has to be the case, which will of course now leave only the ukara behind. The following ach will be, which will be eaten up in that ekadeshaha. So now we had sha u an become sha un e, from shuni. So one more time, we have shwan plus ni. By removing it letters, we got shwan plus e, but a shakvatadite. So bhasanya by yachibham, and by shva yuva magho nama tadite samprasaranam. So vakarasya sthani ukara deshaha. We got sha u an. And then because samprasarana cha, we got the eka between this u and a. We got the eka desha of the u, which is easy to remember. This is easy to remember because of the fact that if you don't do that, then you'll get a yan sandhi again, go back to shwan. So that is what we have here. Now let's look at how it affects us. We have now, that was a Gita example. In case of Magavan, we had Magavan plus Shas. Here we got the Bhasanya again with same sutram, Yachibham. And Magha, here also only one yan is there because Magavan. So yan, only one yan, which is Vakaraha. Vakar is Sthani Ukara Deshaha. In place of, yan goes to ik, right? So ya goes to, respectively, ya goes to ikaraha, wa goes to ukaraha, and refa goes to rukaraha, and the lakara goes to rikaraha. So right now we have vakara will become ukaraha. So magha u, and again samprasarana cha ekadesha, and then in this case ad gunaha. So we had magha u an using the sutram shva yuva magho nama tadyate. Then we did samprasarana cha ekadesha. And then we have magha, magun, magha, un. Then make it maghon. Between this and u, do the ad gunaha, maghonaha. So in all the cases where they have the bhasanya, is what's going to happen now. When Maghavan has bhasanya, so take samprasaranam, then vakarasthani ukaradeshaha, and samprasarana cha. So ukara akarayoho sthane ekadeshaha pura rupam, which is ukaraha, pashat ad gunaha, become maghon. So we continue, we finish this one now. So again, when Magavan plus sta we have, again same thing by chutu, it letter, again bhasanya, samprasaranam, samprasaranacha, and ad gunaha. Same steps as before, maghona. Only happen when Magavan has bhasanya. When Magavan plus bhyam become like Rajan again. So Magavan plus bhyam, only you get the padasanya by Swadhisha Sarvanamasthane, and then Swadhishiva Sarvanamasthane. After that, Magava bhyam by doing the Nulapapadipadikanta because when there is nakara at the end of a padam, nakara for pratipadikam, the nakara drops when nalopa pratipadikantasiya. But because of 8 to 7, it is asiddham for the Sapara Saptadhyayi, and 8 to 2 confirms that, just like we saw in Rajan Shabda, same steps as in Rajan, Magavabhyam. So this supicha cannot do dirgha because this nakar lopa by 8 to 6 asiddham. That asiddhatam is confirmed by 8 to 2, which we have seen before. 8 to 2 says that, nalopaha sup swara sanya tudvidisho. If you're doing a sup vidhi right now, that nalopa remains asiddham for any prior rule. So we cannot do the supicha dirgha. Same thing that we had in Rajabhyam. Same thing here. Same next one, Magavan plus bis, as in Rajabhe. Same steps. Only thing here is that you would have Ato Visais would have come, because again the same idea, which is Nalava Paripadikantesya cannot be seen by Ato Visais. It still sees the Nakarantamangam, cannot apply. So Magavabhe, like in Rajabhe, same steps. Magavan plus Ne, again got the Bhasanya. Remove the letters first, the Shakvatadjite, Magavan plus A, Samprasaranam, Samprasaranacha, Ad Gunaha, Maghone. So you will get, when the Bhasanya comes, we get Maghon, going to become Maghon. So Magavan plus Bhya, same as in Rajabhya, same as before. Magavan plus Nyasi, remove Ya Bhasanya again, remove these letters by Pudeshadunasiket, the Shakvatadjite, become Samprasaranam, Samprasaranacha, and Adgunaha, Maghonaha. So once you know the Bhasanya, all the same steps, and every place of Bhasanya, same Magavan plus Nyas, again is Samprasaranam, Samprasaranacha, and the Adgunaha, Maghonaha. Same thing, Maghonoho, same steps with Samprasaranam, and Maghonam, also same steps. Whenever we have Ajadi Vibhakti, when Shas onwards, the Angam is going to become Maghon by Samprasaranam, Samprasaranacha, and Adgunaha. So Maghonam, Maghoni, same thing. It's also Ajari Vibhakti, again Bhasanya, Samprasaranam, etc. And Magavan plus Su, like Rajasu, Magavan plus Su, you get Padasanya now by Swadishva Sarvanamasthane, Swadishva Sarvanamasthane, and then that again is Asiddham for the Sapara Saptadhyayi. So you cannot do Bhavachan Jaliyet. The Bhavachan Jaliyet is stopped over here. Same thing back here also I should have mentioned when you did the Bhyaha. And here also the Bhavachan Jaliyet was stopped. So Bhavachan Jaliyet and Supicha as well as Atobhisais, these cannot apply. But Nakar Lopa is Siddha for them. Okay, that was Magavan. So summarizing, we had one special rule, Magava Bahulam, 64128, and that applies to do the Triadesh optionally everywhere. And also the Bahulam is used to get the form Magavan to make the Takar Lopa Siddha for 8648. And then we saw this rule, Ugadisham Sarvanamasthani Sambuddho, Dhato, I'm sorry, Ugadisham Sarvanamasthani Dhatoho. That is a very special rule which is going to come in many other places, not just in Magavan. And then we also saw this system for Magavan again, which is Shva Yuva Magavanama Tadite, that only comes when Magavan is Annantaha, doesn't take a Tru Adesha, and has a Bhasanya. And then in relation to Samprasaranam, we saw the definition of Samprasaranam was Igana Samprasaranam, Samprasaranacha, we get the Pura Paryoga Ekadesha of the Pura Rupam. When Samprasaranam is done, it kind of eats up the next vowel because it has to do that. So only the Samprasaranam vowel remains, then the following vowel is combined in an Ekadesha. And we also saw, and now, so that is what the gist of this Magavan, Pratipadikam. Now the next Pratipadikam is Yuvan. Yuvan is same as Magavan, except doesn't have Magava Bahulam. So no question of getting through Adesha. So only one set of declension, only single set. Now only problem here is that the first 5 is just like Raj. We get Yuva, Yuvano, Yuvanaha, Yuvanam, same steps as in Rajan, same steps, nothing special. So now, of course, when the Bhasanya comes with the Shas Pratyaya, because remember, Srunapum Sakasya, the first 5 have Sarvanamasthana Sanya. So you cannot get Yachibham until we get to the Shas Pratyaya. So Yachibham requires, Swadishu Sarvanamasthane, Swadishu Asarvanamasthane. So only when Shas comes, you can start getting the Bhasanya. And here, the the only question difference is that we have two yan letters here. We have yakara, vakaraha. So kasya sthane samprasaranam bhavati. Yakarasya sthane athva vakarasya sthane. So we have a question now. Should I do samprasaranam for the yakara or vakaraha? For that we need the next tool over here, which says that the samprasarane samprasaranam. The samprasarane samprasaranam. What does it say? When the samprasaranam letter follows, then the prior yan will not take samprasaranam. So samprasaranam cannot be done to a yan letter. Of course, samprasaranam is only for yan letter because of ik-yan is samprasaranam. Samprasaranam requires a yan and replaced by an ik. So if there are two yan letters, two or more you can see also, only the ending one, the last one will take samprasaranam, prior will not. Now how do we know all that from this sutram? Let's look at it. Because Panini only says na samprasarane samprasaranam. If a samprasaranam letter follows, then the prior yan will not take samprasaranam. Okay, if that is the case, when you have yuvan plus shas, I can do samprasaranam to yakara first maybe, then do to vakaraha. So both can take samprasaranam. But if we can do in place of yakara, I do ikara first. So then the vakara is no problem because no samprasaranam falling for that. Then I can do ukara in place of vakaraha. That way, both can take samprasaranam. If we do that, then in that case, this na samprasaranam will never have a chance to apply. One more time. We have a choice now. Do the yakara samprasaranam first, do vakara samprasaranam first. So we can make ya into e first or make va into u first. Now, if we make va into u first, then we cannot make ya into e because of na samprasarane samprasaranam. So then only vakara will become ukaraha, yakara will stay yakaraha. That's one choice. Second choice is that make yakara into ikara first. In that case, the vakara can still become ukaraha because no samprasaranam following for it. So in that case, both can be done. But if we do take the second choice, then in that system, the na samprasaranam samprasaranam will never have a chance to apply. This is the basis of Ashtanga. No sutram is useless as such. So in order to make sense of this sutram, in order to give it what's called avakasha, avakasha means it has to be given a chance to apply. It implies necessarily that make the last yan into samprasaranam first, and the prior one will not take samprasaranam after that. Then only the sutram will have some purpose. If you do the first one first, do the second one after, then this sutram is bypassed all the time. Then what's the point of having this sutram at all? So the fact that Panini has composed this sutram is a jnapaka. It indicates that make the last one, in this case the vakara, make into ukara samprasaranam. Once that is done, then the yakara will not take samprasaranam by na samprasaranam samprasaranam. That's the only way to give this sutram an application, give it some meaning. If you do yakara first, the sutram will have no application. So on the basis of that, this vakara takes samprasaranam first, and after that, because of na samprasaranam samprasaranam, yakara sthane samprasaranam bhavati. That's the only complication here. In Magavan, we had only one yan letter. In Yuvan, we have two of them. So we have to have this na samprasaranam samprasaranam to tell us which one to do samprasaranam first, and following which, so do the last one first, then the preceding ones will not take samprasaranam. So Yuvan plus shas, you get Yuvan plus shas manalopaha, and bhasanya yachibam as before. All these are the same as in Magavan plus shas. But here now we have this choice to make the vakara or yakara samprasaranam, but the samprasaranam can only have meaning if we do the vakara first, which will prevent the yakara from taking samprasaranam. Of course, just as before, samprasaranacha becomes this in place of u and a, we get the ukara ekadeshaha, and we get the form yunaha. Yunaha. In fact, Pani has sutram yunastihi. Pani has sutram yunastihi. So that also confirms that, because this Panini, whatever forms Panini uses, they're also like a praman. So yunastihi, 417, Panini has used the word. Of course, that yunaha is not a Ditya Bhavachanam here. It's Panchami Ekvachanam. It's coming adhikar of niya pradipadikar of yunastihi. But anyway, look at that one quickly. That's not the point. The point I'm trying to make is that Panini has used the form yunaha himself. So in Yuvan, we had the two yan letters, and by na samprasaranam samprasaranam, always the ending yan will take samprasaranam, and then after that the prior will not take samprasaranam. That's the only way that we can make the na samprasaranam samprasaranam have an application. So even though Sutram specifically say that, That's what we conclude from that Nyapakaha. Okay, so that is fine. Now let us. That's the only complication with the UN Pratipadikam. The two. Otherwise, everything will form the same as we went the Magavan without through Adeshaha. Once the Bhasanya comes, we'll take some sense to get Yunaha in Dvitiya Bahuvachanam, and then remaining cases we just no new rules. So we get Yuvan plus Bhyam, just like Rajan plus Bhyam, Yuva Bhyam, Yuvabhi, same logic as before. Nalopaja Siddha, so we cannot do any of these Supicha or Atobisais and all that. So Yuvan plus Sneha against Samprasaranam, because this only takes place when you have the Bhasanya. So Bhasanya requires Yachibham. Asarvanama Sthana Pratyaha should be Yakaradi atva Ajadi. In the Sup Pratyaya, there's no Yakaradi, so only Ajadi can be. So we get Yuvan plus Ne becomes Yune, same steps as before. We do some person with the Vakara Samprasaranam, and then no Samprasaranam is Samprasaranam, Prayaka cannot take Samprasaranam. Then Samprasaranacha, Ekadesha in place of U plus becomes U. Then Akasami Dirgha. Only thing in this case we are doing Akasami Dirgha. In the case of Magavan, we did the Adgunaha. It's the only subtle difference here. Otherwise, similar concept. Yuva plus Bhyas, same as in Rajan plus Bhyas Rajabhyaha. Yun plus Nasi against Samprasaranam becomes Yunaha. Nyas also Samprasaranam becomes Yunaha. Os also Samprasaranam. Anytime Ajadi Vibhakti, Shas onwards, we get Samprasaranam. So Samprasaranam, na Samprasaranam is Samprasaranam. Yakara will not take Samprasaranam. Samprasaranacha, and then Akasami Dirgha. This is the important lesson for today. Is we have this. We got these three sutras. Igida Samprasaranam. Define what is Samprasaranam. The reverse of Yan. Second is Samprasaranacha Ekadeshaha. Pura Parayoho Ekadeshaha Pura Rupam. So when a Samprasaranam followed by the Ach, in that case the Ach will be kind of lost. Then Ekadesha the Pura Rupam. And the third thing is no Samprasaranam is Samprasaranam. If you have two or more yans, take the last yan, take Samprasaranam, and then the prior ones cannot. So that's the gist of it. So U1 plus Unam again, same thing, Bhasanya, Samprasaranam, same steps. U1 plus Ni, same thing, Uni again, same thing, Samprasaranam. There also U1 plus Sup, same as in Rajan plus Sup, Rajas. So only when the Bhasanya was there, so U1 went like Rajan, except when Bhasanya was there, it took Samprasaranam and became Yuna, basically. Okay, so we'll take one Pratipadikam called Pathin now. This Pathin has 4 rules to it, but luckily they're all back to back in one nice compact section. So Pathin. So why are we taking Pathin, which has 4 rules for us? Because it's a count Pratipadikam, comes in Gita, is, Vimudha Brahmana Pati. Pati comes in Gita. In chapter 6, Vimudha Brahmana Pati. And of course, Purush Suktam, Nanya, Pantha, Vijateyanaya, Sapantha. Many. So Pathin is a common Pratipadikam. It's a bit of a headache because it has these 4 special rules. In fact, not only Pathin. So Pathin comes in chapter 6 of Gita. Apatishto Mahabaho Vimudha Brahmana Pati. That Pati is Saptami Ekvachan of Pathin Pratipadikam. Pathin. Now, which are the 4 rules? The 4 rules are as follows. They go up 7, 1, 85, 86, 87, 88. 85, 86, 87, 88. Let's look at the gist of these first. So, Pati, Mati Ribhuksham Mat. Pati Mati Ribhuksham Mat. So, Pathin, Mathin. Pati, of course, Pathin means a path, of course. Mathin is like a churning rod, Manthaha. So, it's rod for churning, making like buttermilk, the churning rod. Ribhukshan is also, I think, Indraha. So these 3 words, they have some special rules. Now, the first one, it says At, and that is only, let's look at these rules. Let's go to a sutra document. You understand the domain of each rule now. Let's see what these 4 rules are saying. First one is saying Esham Akaro Bhavati Saupare. So Saupare. Only when the Supratya follows, only at that time, these 3 Pratipadikams will take the Akara Deshaha. As usual, we will make it the alone gesture. So basically, Pathin will become Pati A, Mathin will become Mati A, Ribhukshan will become with rubukshin, I should say, rubukshin will become rubukshi a. So right now we want to considering pathin only for today, because other two are much less common. The mathin will be similar to pathin, and rubukshin will be slightly different, but will also be allow the same rules. We'll see why slightly different is because we see soon. But today in class we'll only do mathin padipadikam. So here only when the su pratyaya follows, this pathin will take the nakara will become the akara adeshaha. Just first sutra. Second one is ito sarvanama sthane. Slightly different now, because this is a bigger domain. This is sarvanama sthane. So su out, just out. Surana pumustakasya. Surana pumustakasya. These rules you should repeat in your mind as many times as you can. Fundamental rules. Because of she sarvanama sthanam, surana pumustakasya. Su out, just out. And then any of those follows, itaha, in place of the ikaraha, you get the akaraha. So pathin will become pathan. Pathin becomes pathan when the sarvanama sthane follows, first 5 places. That's the second rule. The third rule says that if you use the vritti also, pathyadehe ikarasya sthane akara syat sarvanama sthane parataha. This is sarvanama sthane. This was saupare only. The nakara become akara only saupare. This is, I must say, is one of the most complicated halanta padipadikams in a way. Having 4 rules, which are specific rules. So if you don't remember this, remember in the back of your mind that pathin is a complicated padipadikam. It has, these special rules. Okay. Now the next rule is also sarvanama sthani prataha. Is thontha. Is the thakara of pathin become anta. You'll take a nakara with it. Again, sarvanama sthani prataha. One subtle point here is that why not combine these two, because it looks like the ithot and thontaha are both sarvanama sthane parataha. Because the subtle difference here is that the rubukshin has no thakara in it. Rubukshin, of course, has no thakara in it. So this thontaha only apply for pathin and mathin, obviously. Because if rubukshin has no thakara, how can thakara become mantha? So these first two was for all three. All three. Esham akara means pathi, machi, rubuksham. Itot also was it's only sauparataha. This was also for all three. Sarvanamastani prataha. Now this one thontha is only for pathin, mathin. Is only 2 among the 3 which have the thakara in them. Sarvanamastani prataha, that pathin and mathin first of all become pathan, mathan, then become panthan, manthan. Because of this thontha, in place of tha, make it natha. You put the nakara with that. So again, sarvanama sthane parataha. So one more time, we had 85 sau parataha, 86 sarvanama sthane parataha. Same thing 87. 87 only for pathin and mathin. And last rule is when the bhasanya comes bhasyate lopaha. Interesting point here. We have bhasya adhikara going from 64129 to end of 64, from 64129 to end of 64 bhasya adhikara. Now how come Panini pushed this one over here? Bhasyate lopaha. Because anuvritti suvidartham is that anuvritti of this pathin, mathin rivuksham, patimati rivuksham, these anuvrittis available here from 7185. So now rather than again repeat these 3 in the bhasya adhikara all over again, so Panini makes the choice to put this sutram bhasyate lopaha, which is one of the really rare rule which applies to the bhasanya for a bhasanya, but it is not for bhasanya. When the angam has bhasanya, this rule applies, but this is not in the bhasya adhikara because of the fact anuvritti of that pathi machi rivuksham is available to Panini. So he puts this sutram which is for the bhasanyakam angam, but puts it outside the bhasya adhikara in order to use anuvritti rather than repeating those 3 again in the bhasya adhikara. So bhasyate lopaha, so remember that we have seen many times that when you get bhasanya, you have to go to 64129 to end of 64. But this is one rule which is out of that section. So bhasyate lopaha, bhasanyakasya pathyadehe means pathi machi rivuksham tehe lopaha. What is ti bhagaha? Achontyadi ti. Achontyadi ti, which is many times before. When the term, the ti bhaga of a term, take the last vowel and go to the end of the term. That's the T bhaga. So in pathin, the T bhaga is in. So the ikara is the last ach. Go to the end. So the in is the T bhaga of pathin. That will take lopaha when pathin has bhasanya. So 4 rules. One more time. Pathin, matin, pathi mati vikshamat. Pathi mati vikshamat. Pathi mati vikshamat. So pathi mati vikshamat says that when supratya follows, we get the akar adeshaha alontyasya. So become pathi a, mati a, vibhukshi a. And then the next rule says ito sarvanamasthane. In place of ikara, make the akara sarvanamasthane. So become pathan, mathan, and ruvukshan. Now Thontha says for the pathin and mathin, make thakara into natha when the sarvanamasthane become now panthan, manthan. And bhasyate lopa and the bhasanya comes, then the T bhaga, which in this case is the in bhaga, will take lopaha. Okay. So that is the gist of this now. Let's follow the prakriya. Let's see. This is all we need. So 1 sutram for so parataha, 2 for sarvanamasthane parataha, and ekam bhasanyakas. So bhasanya sambandhi sutram. Okay. So let us pathin plus su. Now in this place we'll have 3 rules applying. 85, 86, 87. 85 will first go into the akar adeshaha, by pathi machir vikshamat. Then by doing the ito sarvanamasthane, you get the akar adesh in place of ikara. So we had pathi plus a first by 7185, then patha plus a, because 7186 made the ikara into an akara. Patha plus a, then pantha plus a by thontha. Thontha. So become panthaha, finally panthaha. Panthaha, very common form, comes in Purusuktam twice. Nanya pantha vidyate yanaya. This panthaha, when you chant Purusuktam, maybe you can, when you hear it chanted, maybe you can remember this sutram, these 3 rules. Pathi machir vikshamat. Then, ito sarvanamasthane, thonthaha, these 3 rules. So the all 3 of su is there, all 3. Sambuddhi, no difference, same 3 rules. By pathi machir vikshamat, get the nakar alontyasya, of course, by 152. You make the akara adeshaha, in case of nakaraha. After that, we do the ito sarvanamasthane, the e becomes a, and then thonthaha, panthaha. Okay, now pathin, so this now this the first rule, pathi machir vikshamat, is gone. There's only sav parataha. That is finished now. When you do au, it's a sarvanamasthana sanya, because sudhanapumsakasya, su au just out. So now only 2 rules come, which is the ito sarvanamasthane thonthaha. E becomes a, and the tha becomes natha, so becomes so we will get pathan plus au by the ikara becoming akaraha, and the thakara become natha will become panthau. Panthan plus au, and now we got to use a usual sutram, which is sarvanamasthane cha sambuddhau. Once you got panthan plus au, it's like rajan plus au now. So once you get panthan plus au, like rajan plus become rajanau, panthanau. It becomes 648 sarvanamasthane cha sambuddhau. So we have 2 rules coming here. One which was the ito sarvanamasthane, and thonthaha become panthan plus au, just like in rajan plus au become rajanau. Panthan plus au becomes panthanau, sarvanamasthane cha sambuddhau. Now same thing with the just pratyaya, again those 2 rules, ito sarvanamasthane, all these new rules, repeat them many times. Of course, this one is a very specific rules only for pathin, mathin, reduction. So, hard to remember these rules, but repeat them anyway. Yamudit letters, again here also it says sarvanamasthana sanya, so we can do the ito sarvanamasthane, and also do the thonthaha, panthan plus as, panthanaha by usual sarvanamasthane cha sambuddhau puda dirghaha, just like in rajanaha, panthanaha. Now, same next 2 places, same thing for panthanam, same steps again, ito sarvanamasthane, thonthaha, panthanam by sarvanamasthane cha sambuddhau, like rajanam, pathin plus out, again same steps, Ito sarvanamasthani E becomes a. Then thontha nakara comes in there. Then sarvanamasthani chasam buddha upadarigha panthanau. If you chant Shiva Mahimna Stotram, Shiva Mahimna Stotram, if you chant Atita Panthanam, very second word in that stotram is Panthanam. Panthanam. Panthanam, Ditya Ekavachanam, Pathin Pratipadikam, Pathin plus Ito Sarvanamasthane, Thonthaha, and followed by, of course, Sarvanamasthane Chasam Buddha. Now, after this out is done, Sarvanamasthane is finished now. Only Sut. So now we don't need 85, there's only Sauparataha, 86 is gone, 87 is gone also. Now only when the Bhasanya comes, we'll get like we have in Gita, Muda Brahmana Pathi. So, like Pathi in Gita is Pathin plus Ni, Anubandha Lope E, Bhasanya va Yachibham, the Pathin will lose the T bhaga, become Pathi. Bhasya Ter Lopaha. So Pathin plus just nothing special, Padasanya, and you get the Nulopa Paripadikanta Patibhyaha, in Nakar Lopa only, nothing special here. And when we take, I skip some, sorry, I skip a couple of them. Okay, let's come back here. When you got Pati plus Shas, first time we get the Bhasanya now, because the Sarvanavasanya Sthanasthana is finished now, so just amount is finished there. So Shas Pratya will now give the Angam the Bhasanya. You know what the Bhasanya for the Angam. The Bhasanya Bhasanya is for the Angam, okay, be careful of that. While the Sarvanavasthana is for Pratyaha, so just more Pratyayanam, Sarvanavasthana Sanya. While the Padasanya, Bhasanya, Angasya. So Patin plus Shas, got Bhasanya, Pasyate Lopaha. So this 7188 by the T Lopaha, Achontyadi T, in Bhaga takes Lopa becomes Pataha. So Pataha is Dvitiya Bhavachanam of Patin Padavadikam. Now Patin plus Shta again, same thing, Bhasanya, Pasyate Lopaha, in Bhagasya Lopaha becomes Pataha. Patibhyam, nothing special here, just do the Nakar Lopa by Nulopa Paribatikam and the Padasanya by Swadishvasarnamasthane, Swadishvasarnamasthane, and Patibhyam, Swadishvasarnamasthane, Patibhe, same thing, again Padasanya by Swadishvasarnamasthane, and then again the Nakar Lopaha by Nulopa Paribatikam. All these places when we have Haladi Vibhakti now, we're going to get the, Swadishvasarnamasthane, Swadishvasarnamasthane. So Pati plus Ne, now get the Bhasanya, again the Bhasyate Lopaha becomes Pathe. Pati plus Nyasi, Pati plus Vyas, again you get the Padasanya by Swadishvasarnamasthane, and then Pati plus Nyasi, this here again Bhasanya becomes Pataha, and so there's only one special rule, which is the Bhasyate Lopaha. So Panchami Shashti Ekavachanam again Pataha by the T Lopaha, and the and the Sup, again we get the Padasanya. So that ends the Patin Pratipadikam. So the only thing to remember is that, of course, we go back to fundamental two rules, which is 1 verse 1, 4, 17, 18. These come to now. Now we know why this rule is so important, because they are all both Swadishu. Swadishu, Asarvanamasthane, Padasanya by default, and Swadishu, Yachibham, Asarvanamasthane, Yachibham. So when Swadishu comes, which is Asarvanamasthane, when Padasanya comes, one set of operations, Bhasanya comes, different set of operations. So this is the fundamental two rules, So you get the Swadishva, Sarvanamasthane, and Yachibham. Okay, so that finishes the Patin Pratipadikam. If you can remember this set of four rules, they are there, at least in the back of your mind, that Patin has some special rules, so which are this Pati Matirvikshamat, Ito Sarvanamasthane, Thontaha, Vasyate Lopaha. First one is only for Sauparataha. Second, third is for Sarvanamasthane. Last one is for when the Angam has Bhasanya. Next one, we're going to look at the Pratipadikam Panchan for today. Panchan. Panchan is, of course, is Sankhya Vachak Shabdaha. Panchan, Nakaranta Pratipadikam. That's what we're going to see it today, Nakaranta Pratipadikam. So, because right now we're doing Nakaranta, Halanta, the Nakaranta Pullinga Prakriya. So, we're going to do Panchan plus Jas. Now, we get the Shat Sanya. Now, we have seen what Shat Sanya, let's look at the Shat Sanya, which is Shnanta Shat. Next sutram for today is Shnanta Shat. Shnanta Shat. Simple sutram. It says that Murdani Shakarantaha, Nakarantaha, Sankhya Vachak Shabdaha. Prashatsanya. So Sankhya-vachak Shabda, which is Mudanya Shakaranta or Nakaranta, it's a Shat Sanya. Why Shat Sanya? Because these six terms, which is the Panchan, Shash, Saptan, Ashtan, Navan, Dashan, they take the Shat Sanya. There are 6 of them. That's what they call Shat Sanya. So when you have this in Gita, Panchaitani Mahabaho Karanani Nibodhame, so Panchaitani. So Panchan gets the Shat Sanya, then we do Shadbhyo Luk. If you recall, we had the Shat Sanya before also in the Parivadyam Kati. When we did the Parivadyam Kati, we had looked at this one because we had the Shnanta Shat Daticha. So when Dati we had when the Kati Parivadyam, we got the Shat Sanya. So 1125 gave the Parivadyam Kati also the Shat Sanya. So we have seen this set of 2 situations before. When the Shat Sanya comes, we get Shadbhyo Luk. So Daticha, which you have seen before, is the sutram says that Datyantaya Sankhya Sashat Sanya Bhavati. So Kati. So when the Shat Sanya comes, we get Shadbhyo Luk. What is Shadbhyo Luk? Refresh your memory. Is let's go back to our example sheet over here. So Shadbhyo Luk 722 is saying that is Shatsanyakebhya uttarayoho Jashashoho Luk Bhavati. So Jas and Shas Pratyaya take the Luk elision if this Angam has the Shat Sanya, Shadbhyo Luk. So 2 simple steps, Shnanta Shat, Shadbhyo Luk. Shnanta Shat, Shadbhyo Luk. Shadbhyo Luk we already had before with the Parivadyam Kati, but now we got the Parivadyam Panchan. Only the new sutram here is Shnanta Shat. In fact, Anuvritti of Shnanta Shat goes into the next sutram, which we had, Daticha, which we already used before, was the Anuvritti of Shnanta Shat was going into that sutram. So here now we use the Shnanta Shat itself over here, because when you have the Parivadyam Kati, it's not ending in Mudanya Shakara or Nakaraha, but Panchan ending in Nakaraha. We can do the Shnanta Shat and Shadbhyo Luk. So that will now give us this. So that's the first sutram here. So when we read Panchan plus Jas, Panchan plus Shas, either of these cases, the Shat Sanya, Shadbhyo Luk, and of course finally Nolapos Paribadikantas Sha. 8 to 7, and that is going to do Nakar Lopaha becomes Pancha. Now Panchan plus Bhis, again Padasanya by 1417, which is Swadishu Asarvanamasthane. So we get Padasanya. Now this is become second nature for you. And we, of course, once Padasanya comes, Nakaranta, if you have Pradipadikam, then in that case we get the Nakar Lopaha, but Nolopa Pradipadikam become Panchabhi. And of course in this case again same thing is that the Nolopa is Asiddha. You don't get Panchaihi. Ato besides doesn't apply. The Nolopa came by 827, confirmed by 822. 822 says that any Supvidhi among others is there. Nolopa still Asiddha. So we cannot do Ato besides. Just like in Rajabhi did not become Rajaihi. Similarly Panchabhi does not become Panchaihi because of the Nolopa Siddha. So because Ato besides in the Sapa Saptajai, it will not see Nakar Lopaha. It will see Nakar is still there. It cannot apply because Ato besides requires the Adanta Mangam. So if it doesn't see Nakar Lopa, it cannot apply. So Panchan plus Bhyaha, same thing, we get the Padasanya by Swadishu Sarvanamasthane, and then Nulapa Paribadikantas here, also a Siddha. You cannot do the Bhavachan Chaliyet. The Panchan plus Am comes one special rule now. Of course, Shatsanya by Shnanta Shat. And then we can do the, just like we in Parivan Chatur we did before. Remember, if you remember the Parivan Chatur we have become Chaturanam, because we want to get the Nut Agamaha. Because Shat Chaturbhyascha. So Amaha Nut Agama Bhavati. Remember the sutram which you look at all the time, which is Rasanadhyapo Nut. The next sutram is this one, Shat Chaturbhyascha. So we already saw this one because we had the Parivan Chatur before. Rephanta. That one we had. So that time we made Chaturanam and we did that. We use this sutram. Now we have Parivatikam Panchan, which is Shat Sanya by Shnanta Shata. So again, we can use the same sutram. And we get the Nut Agamaha become Panchan plus Nam now. Panchan plus Nam. So this is not a new sutram. We used this before for Chatur. Now we use for the Shat Sanya, which is the, and so we get Panchan plus Nam, but now comes a new rule. Now comes a new rule which says no padhayaha. No padhayaha. No padha. Because we have right now a Panchan plus Nam we have. Panchan plus Nam. We get Panchan plus Am. Vashat Chaturbhascha, we got the Numagamaha. So now we have Panchan plus Am. So now we have to use this rule, no padhayaha. In fact, the sutram which you use all the time, Savanamastane Chasambhuta, Anuvritti of this one comes to this no padhayaha. So if you have a Nakaranta Mangam, in that case, for Patya Nam, the Upada becomes Dirgha of that. So no padhayaha is only Nami Parataha. Anuvritti that comes into the next sutram, Savanamastane Chasambhuddhau. That's for Sarvanamastane Chasambhuddhau. No padhayaha plus for Nami when Nam follows. So let's go to a sutra document. Let's look at this one. It says that this is a new rule for today. No padhayaha. Nantasya padhayaha dirghasya nami pare. Penultimate vowel of words ending in nakaraha, lengthened by when followed by nam. So we have panchan plus nam comes panchan plus nam. Finally, padasanya again with 1417. Which is the 1417 as usual, our usual rule, which is Swadhisthana Namasthane, and then we can get the Padasanya, Nakar Lopa becomes Panchanam. So we'll do it one more time. We had Panchan plus Am, we got the Nutagama for the Am, Vashat Chaturbhyascha, and then become Panchan plus Nam. Of course, the usual rules, Adyanto, Takito, etc. Remove these letters, Panchan plus Nam. Then the Angaga Padasanya 1417, because we do have Swadhishu, Asarvanamasthane, so Padasanya, and then we get Nulapa Paribadikantas here. So first Upada Dirgha by no Padhayaha, and following that we get the Panchanam as the final form by Nulapa Paribadikantas. So this was a new rule, no Padhayaha, no Padhayaha. Any new rule, repeat 5, 10, 15, 20 times, no Padhayaha. It's only Nami Parata. So when Nam follows, Angam ending in Nakara, we'll take Upada Dirgha. These are all new rules for you today. Once you practice them and you use them over and over again, they will stick in your head. Panchan plus Sub, nothing spelled like Rajan plus Sub for Panchasu. Again, the same thing, Nalopaha, Sasiddha. But Su is also Swadhishu, Sarvanamastane. So we can use this one and do the Nakar Lopaha by 827, which is Nalopa Paribadikantasya. And because it's Asiddha, we cannot do Bahuvachane Jaliyet. Remains Panchasu, does not become Pancheshu, become Panchasu is the final form, Nakar Lopa Siddha for the Bahuvachane Jali 8. Last for the room today, this is the last one for today is Ashtan. It has two rules, Ashtan. Okay, firstly, Ashtan has two forms, two sets of declensions. In one case, it goes same as Panchan. So just like we did Pancha, by doing the Shat Sanya, Shat Bhyo look, Shnanta, Shat, Shat Bhyo look. So just and just take look. So we get Ashta, Ashtabhe. Of course, by this, I forgot to mention that all these Pancha, all these are of course Nityam Bahuvachananta Shabdaha. Because they cannot by the nature. Their nature is such that they mean plural all the time. So Panchan is also Nityam Bahuvachanantaha, so is Ashtan. Ashtan will have one form just like Panchan. So Ashta, Ashtabhe, Ashtabhya, Ashtabhya, Ashtanam. Same thing, no padhayaha, same steps. Ashtasu. That's one form. The second form, we need two rules. One is Ashtana Avibhaktau. Ashtana Avibhaktau. Let's look at this one. So last two rules for today, last Pradipati for today. And the first one here is this one is an optional form, Ashtana Avibhaktau. A bit of a strange rule. Let's look at what it has some. First of all, this sutram doesn't say it is optional. Now, how do we know this is an optional rule? From what can we understand this optional rule? Let's look at it. Ashtanaha attam vasyat halado vibhaktau. When followed by vibhakti which begins with a hal, then ashtan takes akara as an antadeshaha. So that's first. Now how do you know it is optional? Because the way they argue is that, means the grammarians, they inferred this. Paniniya Sutra means the 6172 Panini says Ashtana Dirghat. A completely different context. Doesn't concern us today as such the rule. But this rule says Ashtano Dirghat. There's some operation with regard to swaras, which is not for us for today. But only thing notice that Panini says Ashtana Dirghat. Now why does Panini have to say Ashtana Dirghat? If Dirgha is going to be all the time. If it's Dirgha all the time, no need to say Ashtana Dirghat. So this is a Jnapakaha. So this is an indication of Panini that the Atvam becoming Ashta is optional. But otherwise there was no need to say Ashtanaha Dirghat. So that's the Jnapakaha by which you understand this Akaradeshaha Vibhaktau is Vikalpena. So otherwise the Sutra doesn't say Va, doesn't say Nitarashyam, doesn't say anything like that. Only by the Jnapaka given by some unconnected rule, which is in 61172, which doesn't concern us today, but to notice the fact that Panini had to say Ashtano Dirghat means this Dirgha must be optional. Otherwise there's no point saying Ashtana Dirghat. Yadi Dirghatam Sada Syat. Tari Dirghat iti Vachanam Vyartham Syat. So Swayam Jnapaka Bhavati, becomes Jnapaka. That this Atvam is Vikalpena. Second, another strange thing is that, actually I should mention today, going back a little bit, but anyway, let's finish this one first. We have this Ashtana Vibhakta. One thing that is, normally Anuvritti comes from the prior rules. Anuvritti come from the Paschat. It comes down, okay? But once in a while, to make sense of a sutram, take Anuvritti from a following rule, which is in this case. Ashtana Vibhakta takes Anuvritti of Hali. Hali iti vartate. Hali iti vartate. So this is one of the strange situations where a term from a following rule is taken into a prior rule. Ashtana Vibhakta is Hali Prataha. In fact, when we did the sutram earlier today, earlier in this class, we looked at this sutram, going back a little bit, I forgot to mention at that time, is we said that this Shva Yuva Maghavanama Tadhyate, Samprasaranam, but Anantana. So this, when Magavan is ending in An, then only it takes Samprasaranam. Otherwise not. So there also same thing. Anuvritti of Anaha. It's from the following rule, Anuvritti comes up to the prior rule. So this Anantanam, otherwise when Magavan becomes Magavat, it should not take this Samprasaranam. So we need this Anuvritti of Anaha to come up to this prior rule, Shva Yuva Magavanama Tadhyate, because we only want Magavan to take Samprasaranam when it's ending in An. Otherwise no. That can only be accomplished if we can take Anuvritti of Anaha back up from this 64134, 64133. So we have seen two situations today where the Anuvritti goes from kind of backwards. So one was in the Shva Yuva Maghavanama Tadhyate, Anaha goes up, and the other one we're looking at right now is the Ashtana Vibhaktau. Ashtana Vibhaktau, which is taking Anuvritti of the Hali Prataha from the following rule. The following rule of Hali. So that's one rule. Let's look at that. We need only one more rule for today. That's the last rule for today. So this one is one. So now we are considering, so one form was like Panchan. We already did that. Ashta, Ashtabhi, Ashtabhya, Ashtanam, Ashtasu. Now optional form. Again, optionality was because Pani said Ashtano Dirghat somewhere else. That tells us this Dirghatam is Vikalpena. Okay? So we get the A optionally Hali Prataha. But now we want to do Ashtan plus Jas. Of course, this is again in Nityam Bhavachananta Pratyaha. I mean, Pratipadikam I should say, Nityam Bhavachananta Shabdaha. So we only consider Jas, Shas, etc. So now Ashtabhya Aush. Another bit of a strange sutram. Ashtabhya Aush. First two are used in the plural. Secondly, he says Ashtabhya. So that tells us, he says, look at the vritti now. Kritakarad Ashtanaha. Parayoho. Jashashoho. Aush Syat. One more time. Kritakarad. So only when the Akar Adesha is done, only then, following Ashtan, the Jas and Shas take Aush as the Adesha. So it's only the Akar Adesha Pakshe. So when it becomes like when ashta, like panchan, pancha, no, we don't have the aush over there. Only when the akar adesha is done, then only the just and shas becomes aush. The question comes that I just said that the akara only comes haliparataha. Then how can we do the akara over here when just or shas follow? Because just and shas, if we remove the it letters, only as iti avashishyati shishyate. Haladi vibhaktir nasti. Attam na sambhavati eva. How can attam come over here? So this is again a jnapakaha, that by saying ashtabhya aush, that we can do the akara adesha even when just and shas follow. On the basis of this, this ashtabhya aush. For the fact that Pani is saying ashtabhya, that means he says that aush should be done only when akara adesha is done. And akara adesha had no sutra to justify it. The fact that Pani is saying that means that akara must be possible here. Otherwise, how can we say ashtabhya aush? When you put all that together, the bottom line is that. So now let's follow the example now. So these two rules, okay, one more time. Ashtana vibhakta. It is optional. Optional because of this jnapakaha, ashtano dirghat. That's number one. Secondly, anuvritti of hali comes up from the following rule. Also strange. So that is the two interesting about this sutram. Then this sutram ashtabhya aush is doing the ausha adesha for just and shas, but only when akara adesha is done. Now how is that possible? Because we just said that this ashtana vibhakta only after haliparataha. But the fact that Pani is saying ashtabhya aush means that this akara adesha is also possible when just and shas follow. Let's look at the example now. So when we look to ashtan plus jas, we ashta a plus jas. When we do the, okay, this is the wrong number over here. We'll edit this one. These numbers are wrong over here. This should be the ashtana vibhakta, and so we make it ashta a plus jas, and after that, let's look at this document instead. Let's look at this one instead. That's wrong. We'll edit that one. So this one, the ashta a plus jas comes in ashtana vibhakta, even though it's required haliparataha, because of this jnapakaha that says ashtabhya, we could make it ashta a plus jas, and then by ashtabhya aush, this just takes the ashadesha. Now remember, in the ash we have the talavya and it. So now any adesha alone tasya. Any adesha is alone tasya. But anekashis sarvasya. This adesha aush has the talavya and it. So by that we know that it replaces the entire jas or shas is gone. Because of this halantyam, the shakara, this talavya shakara and it, by 1155, anekashis sarvasya, so the entire jas or shas is replaced by aush. So when the ashtan takes the akara adesha, then the jas or shas become aush. So become ashtau. So see, so the final form becomes, of course, ruddhirechi on ashtau. So you get ashtau, then you get, so when you do the akara adesha, you get the following forms. You get ashtau, then you get ashtabhi, ashtabhya, ashtana vibhaktau, because we have haliparataha. Now, when you get ashtanam, in ashtanam we have two interesting things now. The same form ashtanam, whether we do akara adesha or not, you get the same form ashtanam, but the prakriya is different. If you do it like panchan, what is in panchan? We got the shat sanya, then we got shat chaturbhashya, we got nut agamaha, so we get ashtan plus nut plus am, ashtan plus nam, no padhayaha, we made ashtan plus nam. Finally, padasanya we got by 1417 because swadishu sarvanamasthane. Then we got nakar lopaha by nalupadivadekantasya. Come ashtanam. That's when we don't do the akara adesha. Like panchan, we get the panchanam ashtanam. When you do akara adesha, then what happened? Become ashta. So now we get what we get. We get the again nut agama we get by what sutram? The nut agama again we get. And once we get the nut agamaha, in that case, now we can get the ashtanam again. So first we do the no padhayaha, When Ashtanam we do that, there is a difference between these two. So when we do the Akar Adeshaha, Ashtan plus Am, so in that case we'll get the Shat Sanya, Shat Chaturbhashya, that's if we do the Panchan like. Now when we don't do it Panchan like, we get the Ashtana Vibhaktau. Ashtana Vibhaktau will do the Nakara will get the Akar Adeshaha. Ashtana Vibhaktau. So let's do this one first. Let's do the let's first look at the document here. From the document we see Ashtan plus Am. It's Sat Sanya Ashtan plus Nam by Shachaturbhyascha, and then we get the Ashta Anam Ashtanam by Akasamadi Dikha. So that is the difference over here. So Ashtanam will have the same form. We do the Akar Adeshaha. We don't do the Akar Adeshaha. So when we do the Akar Adeshaha, we get Nut Agamaha, and then because we have Haladi Vibhakti, we'll get the Ashtana Avibhaktava. When we don't do the Akar Adeshaha, we'll go like Panchan, so we'll get the Nut Agamaha by Shachiturbhyascha, and we get No Padhayaha, and then Nalapat Paribadikantasya. So that's the difference. So again, one more time, when we have Ashtan plus Am, when we do the Akara Deshaha, we first get the Nut Agamaha by Shachiturbhyascha, then do the Akara Deshaha, Ashtana Vibhaktau, and become the Ashtanam by doing Akasami Dirghaha. So Ashtan plus Am, first do the Nut Agama Shachiturbhyascha, Ashtan plus Nam, now do the Ashtana Avibhaktau, Ashta, A, Nam, make it Akasami Dirghaha, Ashtanam. We do like Panchan, it will become Ashtan plus Am, again Nut Agama Shachiturbhyascha, we get Ashtan plus Nam, no Padhayaha, make it Ashtan plus Nam, and then Nunapapalibadikantasya. There's a difference between these two. In one case we do no Padhayaha, we do Nakar Lopa Nunapapalibadikantasya. Other case we do the Ashtana Avibhaktau. These are two different forms. So in Panchan case we have used no Padhayaha, then use Nunapapalibadikantasya. Otherwise in the Akara Adesha case we do the Nutagama the same which is Shachaturbhyascha, but then do the Ashtana Avibhaktau, Akasami Dirghaha. And Ashta plus 2 become Ashtasu, Ashtana Avibhaktau. So that is enough. It's enough for today. Okay, the question here. Let me take this one question and we'll stop. Am is a Haladi Vibhakti. Okay, but yeah, rather the question is Ashtan is not the Am is a Haladi Vibhakti is not there. But first, what we do rather is first we can make the Nut Agamaha by Shat Chaturbhyascha. Ashtan has Shat Sanya. So we can take Shat Chaturbhyascha, make it Nut Agamaha, become Ashtan plus Nam. Once we do that, it becomes Haladi Vibhakti. Then we can do the Ashtana Vibhaktau. Yes, Ashtan plus Am itself is not Haladi Vibhakti. We cannot do Ashtana Vibhaktau directly. So do Nut Agama first. Then it becomes Nam. Once that happens, it becomes Haladi Vibhakti. Then we can do the Ashtana Vibhaktau. So first do the Shachaturbhyascha, Ashtan plus Nam. Then do Ashtana Avibhaktau by doing the Akara Adesha, because now we have Haladi Vibhakti with Nam. Okay, so let's stop with that. Next time we start Pradipadikkam, which is, so we finished the Nakara and the Pradipadikkam now. Next time we start with the Pradipadikkam Ritvij. If you want to practice for next time, Ritvij we start with next time. Vyakaranam Pradipadikkam we start next time. So one more time, this is December 25. It is the first session, 2:30 to 4 o'clock. The Vyakarana Bhaga, just to Mangalacharanam. Ramo Rajamanis Sada Vijayate Ramam Ramesham Bhaje Ramena Vijata Nishachara Chamu Ramaya Tasmai Namaha Rama Nasti Paranam Parataram Ramasya Dasosmyaham Rame Chittale Sada Bhautame Bhaurama Mamuddhara Rama Rameti Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Rama Nama Varanane Shri Rama Nama Varanana Onnama Iti. We'll come back in about 10-15 minutes for the Ramayanam.